May 29, 2009. The summer season began with bad news for park enthusiasts. The Associated Press broke the news that due to the budget crisis, Governor Schwarzenegger planned to close down 220 state parks, including scenic attractions that draw millions of visitors each year. He couldn't have picked a worse time to announce such a move. In general, news searches online about parks spike in the summer season, as we can see in this graph. And that's exactly the period of time when park closures were announced. The proposal to shut down parks angered conservationists and locals, especially after a state spokesman said parks were not going to be a priority over public safety and education. The media immediately flocked to cover the issue. Newspaper columnists openly criticized the governor's measure. Their argument was that since parks bring in tourist dollars, they help the state and local economies, and so it didn't make sense to shut them down. Nearly a month after heavy media coverage, the Save Our State Parks campaign held a demonstration outside the California state capitol to protest. This is an example of how, when issues receive heavier coverage in the news, citizens see those issues as more important problems and weight them more heavily when judging politicians. To counter the media frenzy, officials and nonprofit organizations rushed to find solutions, announcing fee increases and even raising taxes. The governor even reversed his position and said he would only shut down 100 parks and reduce hours of operation instead of closing down the 220 parks he had previously announced. The media continued following the story. One news article from the Associated Press reported Russian Americans throughout Northern California who honor their past by visiting Fort Ross Historic State Park would be affected. Fort Ross was among the 100 list of parks that the governor now planned to close. One Russian American even sent a letter to Governor Schwarzenegger, and he wrote back saying he recognized the significance of the site to Russian Americans and that he would try to keep as many parks open as he could. As media coverage continued, Governor Schwarzenegger started to soften his rhetoric and even delayed releasing the list of parks that were on the line, probably to avoid greater coverage and public uproar. But on September 17, a memo was leaked saying that California taxpayers could be on the hook for millions of dollars in damages if the Schwarzenegger administration moved ahead with plans to close as many as 100 state parks. The media was too slow to report this. In fact, the memo was actually obtained by a Sacramento-based environmental group, Public Employees for Environmental Responsibility, and they posted it on their website. This shows how newspapers today are facing steep competition from citizen journalists and the internet in general. A week later, after the memo was leaked, the Schwarzenegger administration finally backed off its threat to close down California state parks. The governor said they had found other budget-saving alternatives. This is important because it shows that greater news coverage in and of itself pushes political actors to act differently than they would otherwise have. Although the media continued to cover the issue in October and November, it did so quite sparingly. Again, as we saw in this Google Trends graph, as the park season ended, so did the coverage. 2 months ago, if you searched California parks in Google, you would get dozens of stories. But today, these are the stories that you will find listed as top stories in Google News. California nude beaches take cover, or California governor parks in the red zone.